Have you ever wondered how we became this? Automatons only bred to fight. I'm here to tell you of the archaic legend of how we became to be the way we are. It all started with entities we have never seen before 2016. Unknown to us humans on Earth, an alien race circled high above us. They are called the Cursed. The Cursed have been circling high above the Earth since humanity began, observing our evolution both physically and socially. The Cursed, however, saw us as a bland, uneventful race, as our technology was, according to the members of the Cursed, only about 10% as powerful as theirs. Our story starts in the year of 2000. Some may remember this time, and those who do will surely remember the tragedy of Y2K. When Y2K happened, all of the computer systems went dead. The Cursed saw this as a major event and were looking forward to seeing humanity collapse. However, this is where things get interesting. As a race, we fell back onto our more primitive instincts, and without computers and extremely basic battery-powered technology, began working together in unity to form farms and basic water distilleries. We became a much more basic society, but some would argue it was the most socially advanced one humans have ever formed. The need for survival overrode our emotions and qualms about others, and so everyone lived in unity, no matter their race, sexuality, or religion. The Cursed, however, were angered by this. They were looking forward to seeing us collapse. 4 years later, in the year of 2004, due to our resilience and our brightest scientists, electricity began to be theorized on how it could be produced. If the Cursed were not angry before this, they were enraged now. In retaliation, they launched a bioweapon called the KRW-21309. The liquid form turns ground into barren wastelands which can support no plant life whatsoever. The liquid soaked through all of our farmland and thus destroyed our food sources. However, due to its undetectable gas form, we did not realize this was a major chemical attack on Earth. There was one location, however, that the Cursed missed. And so, in 2006, when all of the stored food finally began to run out, a large portion of Earth's survivors journeyed towards a castle fort nestled in the Bavarian highlands, simply known as Berg. Berg was an amazing location, sheltered by mountains on either side with a thick layer of clouds above, which let enough sunlight through to breed crops, yet covered enough that the Cursed thought it was a snow-covered mountain. Again, this was confirmed by the Cursed. It was perfect. For 10 years we lived in secret, assuming our safety from what we had assumed was some part of a plant virus. However, our obliviousness was what would eventually be our undoing. Statistically, only about 0.1% of the Earth's population inhabited Berg, approximately 7 million people, which was enough for the Cursed to not realize we were missing. As they watched the rest of humanity die out, we continued to live our simple lives, but then the last human outside of our Berg hideout disappeared. We heard of this from an intercepted transmission picked up on our shortwave battery-operated radio transmitter and receiver, the last electrical appliance known to work. What we heard sounded like an automatic message stating, "The last man has fallen, Earth has fallen." And to this day, I regret what we did. But we turned on the transmission sequencer and began to frantically shout into the microphone, "We're here! We're alive! Help us!" We had not heard another voice in so long, and our group of scientists had theorized that we may be rescued by interdimensional travelers of alternative Earths. They said that if we did not fall to Y2K, we would have mastered interdimensional travel by the year 2016, the year we heard the transmission. Therefore, we thought this was an alternative Earth coming to save us. The main city of Berg was contained within the castle walls, and the housing around the outskirts dotted into small hamlets in between the masses of farmland. I was one of the lucky ones, For I was head counsel of our small hamlet, and therefore had access to the radio, and so was there to make humanity's biggest mistake. This ultimately saved our life, however, as no more than 5 minutes later we heard an amazing roar, like 1,000 jet engines all going off at once. We rushed outside to see our grey clouded sky part, and a brilliant unspoiled blue sky expose itself to us. We all gazed up in awe as we saw cylindrical objects float down from the sky, or so we thought. The objects weren't floating, they were plummeting, and stenciled onto the side was KRW 21309. As we saw them plummet, we realised our mistake. Whatever that transmission was, it wasn't our saviours. And those weren't teddy bears falling from the sky, that is for sure. We ran to take cover as the capsules smashed into the ground. The craters were as big as houses in some cases. Liquid splashed out and engulfed some people, who collapsed to the floor. I didn't know if the liquid killed them or if the curse did that. But at the time, I just knew there was only one safe place. Inside Berg. I, along with many others, ran towards the castle walls while capsules fell and killed all around us. And then, we were about 10 minutes away from Berg, everything fell silent. No screams, no talking, no capsules. Everyone turned to look at each other. We didn't know what to think, but cautiously we approached Berg. It was at this point, however, the silence was broken by what sounded like marching troops from the distance behind us. Turning to look, we saw a dust cloud approaching at an alarming rate. We knew our only hope now was Berg. Running now, we reached the main gate to Berg, the lower walls painted red with blood. Many of those we lived beside yet never noticed, but here now we noticed and recognized them. There was one other glaring thing we noticed and recognized. We were all going to die because Berg had closed its doors. Staring up at Berg's doors, stout and wooden, and totally impenetrable by hand, we turned to face the thundering footfall approaching us. But before we could even see the creatures approaching us, the loudest noise we have ever heard crashed from behind us. It sounded like a car crash, with the crunching and the screeching of crumpling metal. Accompanying the sound was a bright flash, so bright that it would have blinded me if I had looked straight into it. And then there was a distinct burning flesh smell, and as one of the heavy doors fell backwards off its hinges into Berg, we saw why. The brown dirt making up the floor of Berg was now grey. Ash. Human ash. Everyone inside of Berg was dead because they had tried to stay and fight, I assume. That's when we realised the marching was considerably louder. At this point, running was useless. We grimly awaited our deaths, and then we saw them. They looked just like us humans, but their skin was purple and they had no hair. Approaching us was assumably the leader of this group of things. It introduced itself as, "I am Klesh, General of Entertainment for the Cursed. You, over your puny existence, have not been very entertaining. I will save you the rest of his long, uninvigorating speech, but in short, he offered us something we could not refuse. In order for us to entertain the Cursed, we would do what he described as virtual plays. We would get food and water, etc. We all agreed to it, and Sir Adam, the highest ranking of our survivors, told Klesh we would accept. No sooner had he said this, that we were all bundled into vans and ferried to a large black building. When inside, they showed us our rooms. We were to be hooked up into cryostasis chambers, effectively frozen. Many objected and tried to run, however, they were shot and murdered. As the cold liquid filled the chambers, instructions flashed in front of me, and probably everyone else. Our eyes were on LCD screens. Then, nothing. I woke up with the rest of us unable to move, looking at some sort of a menu. I found out that if I thought of what I wanted to open, it would, and if I willed myself out of this menu, I would end up in a cold, snowy town. I could run around, and for some reason I had a gun. I knew how to fight. This was the first match of torture we called Krunker. We are beamed to robots and forced to fight, and at the end of our match, the curse determines how much food we get sent to us in our cryostasis state, which is 1 portion per 100 points earned. We call it KR. And what you may not know is that it stands for Kirsch Resources. However, lately people have been breaking the rules and trading their resources with gamblers to gamble on stylized weaponry. And some are even selling them for massive prices. You may be wondering how I know our history and you don't. Simple. I was deaf on day 2 of the Krunker games, and therefore when on day 5 they played a deafening sound which removed prior memories, I never heard it.